They smiled while sharpening the knives. You didn't see it at first, the way their words bent, the way their eyes flickered when you spoke your dreams aloud. You thought loyalty meant safety. You thought love meant protection. But loyalty is a coin the weak only spend when it costs them nothing. And love turns hollow when envy starts to feed on it. They waited for you to fall. They wanted it quiet, clean, untraceable. A slow execution carried out in the silence between your trust and their ambition. You gave them truth, and they returned illusion. You gave them time, and they gave you absence. You gave them everything, and they left you with nothing but echoes. The betrayal wasn't a thunderclap, it was a whisper, a message left unanswered, a glance that looked through you. One day the calls stopped coming. The room that once held your laughter now carried only their stories, rewritten without your name in them. You became the ghost in your own life, the punchline in their private jokes. They deleted your name from the narrative, and the world didn't flinch. That's the first lesson no one warns you about, how easy it is for the world to forget you exist when it benefits them. The lights dim, and you learn the taste of silence, metallic, bitter, real. You tried to reason with the wreckage. You replayed conversations, searching for the moment you became disposable. Was it when you trusted too much, when you spoke with too much conviction, when you believed you were safe? But betrayal doesn't need reason. It only needs opportunity. They didn't destroy you out of hatred. They did it because it was easier than facing the reflection of their own mediocrity. You were a reminder of what they couldn't become. So they tore you down to feel tall. Their cruelty wasn't personal, it was instinct, survival of the jealous. The night you realized it, truly realized it, something shifted. You stopped waiting for the apology. You stopped writing paragraphs to ghosts. You stared at the messages, the blocked lists, the unanswered calls, and you felt a strange stillness. Not peace, not yet, just awareness. The kind that burns slow and cold. You walked outside that night, no umbrella, no destination, and the rain felt like it was cleansing you of every false face you'd ever believed in. You looked up and whispered nothing, because there was nothing left to say. The silence became your witness, and then, in that silence, you heard it, the faint hum beneath the chaos, the one that had always been there, buried under noise. It wasn't anger, it wasn't revenge, it was something older, something sharper, the awareness of power unclaimed, the understanding that they hadn't buried you, they had stripped you, freed you from illusion, from comfort, from dependency. You realized the betrayal wasn't the end, it was the initiation. Every empire begins with exile. Every warrior is born from abandonment. You stood there soaked and shaking, and for the first time you didn't feel broken. You felt forged, the kind of strength that doesn't roar. It hums like steel under pressure. You thought you lost everything, but what you really lost were the chains disguised as belonging. And in that revelation, your pulse slowed. You saw it clearly. Their betrayal was your beginning. Their silence was your signal. They tried to erase you from history, but in doing so, they made you timeless. Because now every scar on your back speaks louder than their names ever will. They forgot you fast, quicker than you thought possible. One week you were part of the noise, and the next you were erased like a mistake on paper. No explanations, no farewells, just silence so deep it pressed against your chest. The same voices that once said your name with warmth now look past you like you were never there. It's not anger that hits first. It's disbelief, that quiet kind of shock that makes everything around you feel unreal. You replay the moments, the smiles, the promises, and somewhere between the fragments, you realize the truth. They didn't change, they just revealed themselves. You start to sink, not in water, but in memory. Every sound feels distant. Every message left unread feels like a blade turned inward. You scroll through the ghost town of your own life. Names that used to light up your phone now just sit there, faded and cold. Nights become longer. The world shrinks to four walls and the sound of your breathing. You lie awake not because you can't sleep, but because part of you is afraid of waking up to the same emptiness again. The fall isn't dramatic, it's slow, it's quiet. It's the erosion of what you thought was solid trust, love, purpose. And then comes the numbness, the stage no one talks about. When pain stops hurting and starts echoing. You stop explaining, stop defending, you just stop. You move through days like a ghost with unfinished business. You watch people live, laugh, build, and you wonder when you stopped belonging to that world. That's when your mind starts whispering things you never wanted to hear. That maybe they were right. That maybe you deserve this. That maybe your absence made no difference at all. The darkness doesn't scream, it negotiates. It convinces you that isolation is safety, that silence is peace. And for a while you believe it. But deep beneath that silence, something ancient begins to stir. A flicker, faint but defiant. The kind of spark that refuses to die even when smothered. You don't understand it yet. It feels like rage but cleaner, like grief but sharper. It's not about them anymore. It's about the version of you that trusted too easily, loved too loudly, forgave too quickly. That version is dying, and its final breath is teaching you what survival really means. You look at the mirror and don't recognize yourself, not because you've changed, but because you've started to see clearly. The walls that confined you become a crucible. Every hour alone presses heat into you, shaping something harder than what existed before. You stop seeking answers from those who betrayed you. You start studying the betrayal itself. You trace it like a map. Who moved first, who smiled while striking, who stayed silent while watching. You start to understand the ancient principle buried in every myth. Every fallen empire power is born in isolation. The lion doesn't roar in the crowd. It roars when the jungle forgets it exists. The world outside still spins, but it no longer feels like yours. And somehow that's liberating. The same silence that once broke you now becomes the place where your new voice forms. It doesn't speak yet. It listens. It watches. It waits. And somewhere between the collapse and the calm, you begin to see the truth written in the ruins. No one erased you. They simply cleared the space for your return. You stare at the mirror, but it doesn't recognize you. The reflection shifts, flickers, almost recoils. There's something hollow in your eyes. Not weakness, not yet. Just the haunting emptiness that comes after you've been erased. You touch the glass, and for a second, it feels like someone else is trapped behind it, mimicking your movements. The silence in the room isn't peaceful, it's predatory. It listens, it waits, as if daring you to admit what you already know: no one is coming to save you. You can almost hear the echo of their laughter. The people who swore loyalty until it became inconvenient, the ones who feasted on your trust. Now they've vanished, leaving you with ghosts made of memory and betrayal. Your reflection doesn't lie, not anymore. It shows you everything they refused to see. The exhaustion under your eyes, the fracture in your faith, the quiet rage you've tried to drown in forgiveness. You've been patient, too patient. You thought the universe kept score, that effort meant reward, that good intentions were armor. But the mirror reminds you the world doesn't owe you fairness. It only mirrors your force. And for too long, you've been gentle when you should have been ruthless. You mistake empathy for weakness, and they weaponized it. You gave without limit. They took without shame. The reflection tilts, almost smirks, as if saying, "Now do you understand?" You lean closer. There's a pulse in your jaw, a tremor under your skin. You want to look away, but the mirror traps you inside the confrontation you've avoided for years. The lies peel off one by one. The lie that they'll come back. The lie that they'll see your worth. The lie that being good guarantees anything. Every illusion burns under the fluorescent light until only truth remains, cold, sharp, and merciless. The truth that the only person who can resurrect you is you. The mirror is not your enemy, it's your judge, and it's tired of your excuses. The silence becomes heavier, almost sacred. You feel something ancient awaken, not anger, but clarity. You see now that all this pain was never punishment, it was preparation. The betrayal wasn't meant to destroy you, but to strip you down to your core, to expose the unbreakable beneath the flesh. You realize that your suffering carved out space for something stronger to take its place. They tried to erase you, but in doing so, they handed you the pen. You've been staring at your own ghost long enough. It's time to kill it. You wipe the mirror with your sleeve. The fog fades, and for the first time, the eyes staring back don't look lost. They look dangerous, cold, focused, aware. You can almost feel the old version of you suffocating in the background, gasping for one last breath. But you let it die. You won't apologize for evolving. You won't beg for acknowledgement. You are no longer their project. You are the architect. The reflection stands still, unflinching, as you finally see the truth. This isn't the end of your story. It's the origin of your legend. The world outside hasn't changed yet, but you have, and that's enough, because they can't erase what's been reborn in silence. You don't need to scream your comeback into existence. You'll let the results whisper it for you. The reflection no longer feels foreign. It's not an image now. It's a symbol of what happens when pain turns into purpose, when betrayal becomes blueprint, when silence becomes the throne. The mirror watches as you turn away. It doesn't follow. It knows. The war has already begun. And this time, you're not fighting for their recognition. You're fighting for your empire. You stop waiting for the world to notice. You stop bleeding for applause. There's no audience now, only the sound of your breath cutting through the dark, steady and deliberate, like a blade being sharpened in a cave no one dares to enter. The betrayal that once burned your lungs has become oxygen. You train in silence, not in gyms, not in crowds, but inside your own head where the war was always fought. Every rep, every repetition isn't for muscle, it's for control. You're no longer chasing strength, you're becoming it. There's no music, no motivation, just the cold hum of a world that doesn't care, and the echo of your footsteps against the floor as you rise again and again. You stopped asking why. Pain doesn't need a reason, it just needs direction. You channel it. You wear it like armor. The weakness that once screamed inside your bones now whispers obedience. Discipline becomes your religion, brutal, thankless, divine. You eat less, sleep less, talk less. You move like a ghost among the living, unseen but building something monstrous beneath the surface. The nights are the worst because they're honest. No distractions, no noise, no pretending. Just you in the mirror that doesn't lie anymore. You study that reflection like an enemy you must defeat. Every flaw, every doubt, every tremor of fear, dissected and replaced with steel. The same hands that once begged are now weapons. You feel the shift slow, invisible, unstoppable. Your habits harden. Your emotions calcify. The chaos that destroyed you has become your rhythm. You don't control the storm anymore. You are the storm. You remember how they laughed, the whispers, the half smiles, the way they looked through you like you were transparent. Those memories used to suffocate you. Now they fuel you. Each betrayal becomes a rep. Each humiliation, a brick. You build your foundation from ashes, one scar at a time. No validation, no comfort, just structure. You don't announce progress, you embody it. The silence becomes your witness, the shadows your ally. You understand something most never will. True power is built when no one's watching. Your mornings begin before the sun earns permission to rise. You wake not from rest, but from duty. Cold water, empty room, a to-do list carved in your head like scripture. You no longer flinch at discomfort. You invite it, test it, twist it until it bends. You treat your pain like an apprentice. It teaches you the edges of your endurance. The grind is no longer a punishment. It's the ritual that purifies you of weakness. What was once suffering is now symmetry. Every act of control becomes a quiet rebellion against everything that tried to break you. You stop reacting. You stop explaining. You stop needing to be understood. The world that mocked your silence will one day kneel before it. Because in your stillness, something ancient is stirring. Something that remembers what it means to endure when others collapse. You move with intent now, precise and detached. A machine built from heartbreak and hunger. You've outgrown the need to be seen. You've become the kind of force that doesn't shout, it commands. They'll never understand what it cost you to rise. They'll never hear the conversations you had with yourself at 3 a.m. when quitting sounded holy. They'll only see the aftermath, the calm in your eyes, the authority in your silence, the scars you no longer hide. You forged yourself in the furnace of neglect. And when the world looks again, it won't recognize you, it will feel you. In every room you walk into, in every silence that follows. You don't seek revenge anymore. You are the consequence. They thought the fire would destroy you. They didn't understand that you were born from it. Every betrayal, every humiliation, every quiet night where your chest burned and your hands shook, that wasn't weakness, that was the forge. The world tried to turn you into ashes, but ashes remember what they once were. They cling to shape, to essence, to something unkillable. And from that dust you began again, quieter, colder, sharper. You stopped begging the universe for fairness. You started making yourself into the kind of weapon the universe fears. You learned that pain has a rhythm, and you marched to it. Each morning felt like dragging your body through broken glass, but you kept moving. Because what choice was left? To fade like the others? No. You'd rather bleed in motion than die in silence. They thought you were gone. But you were studying them, their patterns, their excuses, their fragile masks. You learned that power doesn't shout. It watches, it plans. It waits until everyone else has exhausted themselves pretending to be gods. You became something the old you would never recognize, patient, ruthless, calm like a blade left under moonlight. Every insult became data, every rejection a spark. You stopped trying to be understood. You learned to weaponize misunderstanding. When they mocked your solitude, they didn't know it was your training ground. When they said you'd changed, they were right. You had burned the version of you who needed approval to feel real. Now you walk with silence that unnerves people. Because silence means control, and control means they can't predict you. At first, the transformation terrified even you. There were nights you looked in the mirror and didn't see the person you once were. But that's the price. Power never comes wrapped in comfort. It comes when you stop negotiating with your pain and start commanding it. You realize no savior is coming. No apology is worth waiting for. No revenge is louder than results. So you built, rebuilt, refined, until every scar aligned with purpose. Until every weakness became armor. They thought you'd break. You didn't. They thought you'd crawl back. You stood taller. They thought silence meant defeat, not realizing silence was your recalibration. You don't raise your voice anymore because you've become the echo that never fades. You don't chase their recognition because you've turned your back on the theater of validation. You built your own kingdom in the ruins they left behind, not with gold or praise, but with focus, solitude, and the kind of discipline that bends time itself. Now your presence carries weight they can't measure. The same ones who dismissed you now avoid your gaze because they feel it. The shift, the gravity, the quiet storm behind your eyes. You've learned that revenge isn't fire hurled outward. It's the heat you carry inside, steady and endless, that melts everything false in its path. You don't need to prove anything anymore. They will prove it for you. When they realize the ghost they buried became the architect of everything they envy. You are no longer chasing light. You are the fire that blinds. You are the reminder that nothing born in pain returns gentle. They made you disappear. But disappearance was your evolution. You vanished from their stage to build your own throne. And when they speak your name now, it tastes like regret. Because the one they tried to erase has become the very flame that lights the history they'll never escape. You didn't announce your return. You didn't post about it or beg for validation. You simply walked back into the same world that once swallowed you whole. But this time it bowed in silence. They don't recognize you at first. The same faces that mocked you now study you, trying to understand how something they buried could rise again. You don't correct them. You let the unease speak for you. Power doesn't explain itself. It just exists undeniable, unshakable. And as you pass by, their laughter dies before it leaves their throats. You've learned something they never will. That real resurrection isn't loud. It happens in the shadows, in the stillness, in the nights when no one is watching. You rebuilt yourself where no applause could reach. You became your own architect, your own soldier, your own storm. Every scar that once made you hide has become armor. Every name they called you, you've carved into the walls of your discipline. You no longer chase their respect, because respect built from fear burns cleaner. When they threw you away, they thought they ended you. But endings are only dangerous when written by those who refuse to stay dead. You turned their betrayal into blueprints. You studied their tactics. You memorized their lies. And when the time came, you didn't need to announce your success. The results spoke with a clarity that silence could barely contain. They watch now as you move through rooms that once rejected you. Untouched by bitterness, untethered by need. You don't gloat, you observe, you remember. There's a kind of dominance they'll never understand. The kind that doesn't crave vengeance, only precision. You don't need revenge. You've evolved past it. Revenge would mean they still matter, that their betrayal still bleeds. But you stopped bleeding long ago. You became the knife instead. Every failure they fed you became a lesson in control. Every wound a test of endurance. You learned the art of strategic silence, the power of withholding emotion until it becomes unbearable to everyone else. They sense it now, the shift in gravity, the way your presence changes the temperature of a room. You don't have to speak. The way you carry yourself says enough. They thought the story ended without you. But history has a cruel habit of remembering those who refuse to vanish. Your name, once whispered in mockery, now returns in reverence, spoken carefully like a warning. They can't erase what's already written in fire. You understand now that survival was never the goal. Transformation was. You became something beyond what they can categorize, too calm to provoke, too calculated to deceive. You've tasted loss so deep it turned into clarity. You've seen the underbelly of admiration, how quickly it curdles into envy, how silence can cut deeper than words. And so you learn to operate above emotion, to treat chaos as air. While they drown in noise, you navigate through silence like a predator through fog. The world bends differently now, not because it loves you, but because it fears disrupting your stillness. You've become untouchable not through status, but through detachment. The storms still come, but they no longer move you. You've mastered the art of staying unbothered in a world addicted to reaction. And that's what terrifies them most. Not your power, not your rise, but your indifference. You are no longer seeking recognition. You are the reminder that history doesn't worship the loud. It bows to the ones who burn quietly, rebuild ruthlessly, and return without mercy. They used to laugh when they said your name. You remember that echo, sharp, dismissive, meant to bury you. But now that same name travels through corridors you've never stepped in, whispered like a code, feared like a prophecy. You don't speak much anymore. You don't need to. Power has its own frequency, and yours hums beneath the silence like a storm waiting for orders. You walk through places where your absence used to be the loudest thing in the room. Now your presence bends the air itself. They look at you like they're seeing a ghost, and maybe they are. Because the version of you they killed never came back. Something colder did. There's a stillness in you now that terrifies them more than your anger ever could. You've learned that true dominance doesn't shout. It watches. It waits. It strikes when forgotten. The world worships noise, but you became a shadow. Invisible, disciplined, impossible to predict. And while they spent years performing power, you became it. You learned the art of withholding, of silence that suffocates, of stares that speak entire wars. The loud never win, the patient do. You've seen kings burn their own thrones, trying to prove they were still in charge. You didn't need a throne, you became one. They tried to erase your story from memory, but memory bends to those who endure. You wrote your legacy in scars they can't scrub clean. Every betrayal, every sleepless night, every wound, ink on the scroll of your history. The cruelest thing about resilience is that it doesn't announce itself, it just outlasts everything else. You became the last one standing, not because you were the strongest, but because you stopped waiting for the world to play fair. You adapted, you evolved, you disappeared in plain sight, and when you returned, no one recognized you, except for the ones who broke you. They knew that look, the one that says, "I forgave you, but I never forgot." There's something ancient about the way you move now. Measured, deliberate, unhurried. The way old predators conserve energy while the young ones waste it. You've learned that chaos is just noise to those who've made peace with their demon. The storm doesn't scare you anymore, it answers to you. That's what true power feels like. Not dominance over others, but mastery over the battlefield within. You stopped chasing closure. You stopped needing apology. You realized the real revenge wasn't proving them wrong. It was living in a way that made their absence irrelevant. You became the lesson, the warning, the reminder that some ghosts don't haunt, they rule. Now the same mouths that denied you speak your quotes. The same hands that threw dirt now sculpt your image in marble. History is funny that way. It forgets the crowd, but remembers the one who stood alone. They wanted to delete your existence, but they didn't understand the paradox. What's erased from history becomes myth, and myths never die. You became something beyond recognition, not human ambition, but human endurance carved into time. They can imitate your tone, your walk, your discipline, but they can't replicate the silence you earned. Because silence is the crown only worn by those who've already buried their need to be seen. You stand at the edge of everything, calm, unshaken, timeless. The kingdom you built isn't made of gold or approval, it's made of moments no one saw. The nights you didn't quit, the mornings you rose without reason, the 1,000 quiet victories that turned you into a force too vast to be erased. You don't chase history anymore, you breathe inside it. They tried to erase you once. Now every chapter begins with your shadow.